Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the Portland Police Bureau Awards Ceremony. I'm Sergeant Pete Simpson. I have the honor and privilege of being your MC for today's event. First, I'd like to thank Sergeant Jim Quackenbush of the Bravo Youth Orchestra for today's entertainment. Bravo transforms the lives of underserved youth through intensive orchestral music instruction, promoting self-confidence and creating a community where children thrive. We're honored to have had you today as part of today's ceremony. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to ask you if you're able to please rise as the Portland Police Bureau's Honor Guard presents the colors. When you hear the call to present arms, uniformed personnel should render a salute. Members of the armed forces and veterans who are present but not in uniform may render the military salute. Non-uniformed personnel and members of the public should stand at attention, if possible, with your hand over your heart. Once the colors are presented, we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, arms. Right, face. Forward, march.
Thank you. You may be seated. Today we'll be honoring Bureau members, personnel from our partner agencies, and community members for their dedication and service to the City of Portland in the finest traditions of the Police Bureau. We would like to thank all the families, friends, dignitaries who are here today to honor these award winners. To open up the award ceremony, I'd like to introduce the Chief of Staff of Mayor Ted Wheeler, Maurice Henderson.
Thanks, Sergeant Simpson. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The mayor extends his regrets. He's actually at a memorial service right now for Rick Best, one of the folks who lost his life over this past weekend. So his thoughts are certainly with that family, but really wanted to be here to celebrate the incredible work and dedication of so many officers and members of the community who showed other displays of heroism every day. So thank you for allowing us to participate in this event today. It's a privilege for me to be here. I was able to review some of the citations for today's awardees and was really impressed with the work that people have been doing on behalf of this community. Today's awards highlight Portland Police Bureau and community members who have saved lives, served with distinction, and been innovative in their work. These awards honor community policing activities that I know occur every day, often with little recognition. After almost a week of such sadness in our city, it was great to read about so many positive and compassionate actions. It's what our city is all about, despite the headlines. I'll pause for a second and just share that I was representing the mayor of the city this past week in London, England, where we were originally supposed to be for a business trip to meet with the mayor of London and others. And obviously the mayor turned around and came right back. But I can tell you that the folks in London, the folks in France, in Germany, and other parts of the world are watching Portland. Their hearts are with this community and wanted us all to know how much they support the work that is happening here and how proud they are of the way that we stand up as a community together. So I wanted to make sure that I relayed that message to you today. So congratulations again to today's award winners, and thank you all for the work that you do each day on behalf of the city.
Now I'd like to introduce the Chief of Police, Mike Marshman.
Again, thank you for coming today. I want to echo what Maurice Henderson, the Mayor's Chief of Staff, said. There's so much negativity in the news recently. It's just kind of how the world is, unfortunately. But day in, day out, the men and women of the Police Bureau do selfless acts for the community every day. But also not lost is the community that we're honoring today as well. Community members help us every single day, and without that combined effort of the police and the community, Portland simply wouldn't be as great of a city as it is. So many good things go on every single day. We just simply can't recognize all of them, because we'd be here in this building every day congratulating them on the Police Bureau and the citizens of our community. It's an honor to be the chief of this organization. I've talked to a lot of police chiefs across the United States and frankly Western Europe, and I can't be more proud of the city, of the citizens, residents of the city, and the police officers that work here. I think Portland's a very fortunate city. I'm humbled to be the chief, and what you'll hear today is just a snippet of what goes on literally every day, but it's great to take this time to truly honor the folks we're honoring today. So thank you for taking the time to show up and join with us.
Now it's time to present the awards. As I call your name, please come to the stage to receive your award. We have a few large groups, so please hold all the applause until all the people receiving an award are on stage. The script was written by Ernst & Young. There will be no mistakes, there will be no la-la lands, there will be no things like lighten up. It's supposed to be fun. Okay? Our first award is a Certificate of Appreciation for the Police Review Board. The Police Review Board consists of Bureau members and community volunteers who review internal investigations involving Bureau members. The Police Review Board is an integral part of the accountability and oversight process within the Portland Police Bureau in the city of Portland. The community members are volunteers who devote many hours of their personal time and energy to serve on the board. Their efforts and input have guided several chiefs of police, the Portland Police Bureau, the city of Portland, and the community at large. The Police Review Board is an important component to helping provide critical community oversight of our police and our city. For their hard work, personal sacrifice, and dedication to this oversight process, they are hereby awarded the Portland Police Certificate of Appreciation. Next, we have a Certificate of Appreciation for Nora Alexander and Teresa Lemke. On August 7, 2016, TriMet operator Teresa Lemke was driving her bus downtown. Nora Alexander was a passenger. As the bus headed to Southwest 2nd and Washington, an elderly man on the bus was threatening to get off and jump off the Morrison Bridge, or jump in front of a moving vehicle. Ms. Alexander kept the man calm and safe as Ms. Lemke called for assistance. Officers arrived and helped calm the man, and eventually he made the decision to be voluntarily taken to a medical facility. Without the assistance of these two women, this distressed man would have most likely carried through with one of his threats. Nora Alexander and Teresa Lemke, you are hereby awarded the Portland Police Certificate of Appreciation. Certificate of Appreciation, Morgan Johnson. No? La La Land. Laura Reeder, is she here? No? Moonlight. Miss Streeter's here. Okay. Well, I know the records division's here. All right. Unit commendation for the records division. On April 15, 2015, the Portland Police Bureau began using a new records management system named Region. Region replaced the Portland Police Data System, which had been used for police records management for more than 20 years. During the service life of our old system, police records specialists and police records training coordinators were very proficient in the processing of police records. The standard operating procedures were complete, updated, and comprehensive during PPBS. The training for new employees was also well established. Following the implementation of Region, many procedures, knowledge, and work processes were no longer effective. Many of the features and functions of the new system created challenges that required complex decisions on how reports would be processed. The learning curve for the records division was very steep and was compounded by a shortage of staff, new employees in training, and the remodeling of the entire division floor. All the positions within the division were compressed into a space 1/3 the size for 2 months during the remodel. Additionally, there was a 1-week period between the lockout and PPBS and being able to process new reports in the Region system. By July 2015, it was evident that the records division was not able to keep pace with the incoming workload. Many efforts were made to improve efficiency and all avenues were pursued. However, it was soon realized that the system was far more complicated and presented challenges to keep up with the pace. By November of 2015, the backlog had grown to more than 19,000 cases, which represented about 4 months' worth of police reports. This was having a significant impact on cases being investigated, followed up on, or processed to the courts. In January 2016, a proposal was made to stop working backwards and to start at the current date and move forward. The plan was to catch up as time and resources permitted. The adopted timeline for the completion of the backlog was originally August 2017. The Records Division completed the backlog on November 18, 2016, 9 months ahead of schedule. They also maintained the processing of incoming reports. Working cases provided a sense of accomplishment to the members of the Records Division, as they knew the information was important to officers, investigators, and professional staff. The training coordinators did a great job monitoring the queues and redirecting resources. The police records specialists were extremely flexible and moved from one job task to another to maximize the impact on project priorities. The ability to successfully resolve the 19,000 case backlog while also remaining current on 2016 cases was a huge accomplishment for the Records Division, and they are hereby awarded the Portland Police Unit Commendation Medal. Commendation Medal. Officers Haley Shelton, Officer Angel Ocasio, Officer Matt Toby, Lilith Armenta, and Colini Pustuya. On August 21st, 2016, Officer Haley Shelton responded to assist Portland Fire Bureau and the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office with a drowning in Kelly Point Park. A young girl had been pulled underwater by a strong current. Unfortunately, in spite of the tremendous rescue effort by dive teams, the girl was found deceased. Numerous family members were present, and it was learned others were gathered at the family home in East Precinct. Officer Angel Ocasio responded to the family home and assisted with the death notification and emotional support. TIPS volunteers and Colina of the International Refugee Center of Oregon also assisted at both locations with notifications, grief processing, and various resources. This team effort successfully navigated significant language challenges as well. The Sunshine Division provided numerous food boxes for the family, and an online fundraiser was developed that raised more than $7,600 in emergency funds. Officers Shelton and Ocasio maintained contact with the family and the larger Burmese caring community in Portland. In conjunction with Portland Parks and Recreation, an event was planned at Delta Park entitled the 2016 Myanmar Sporting Match and Water Safety Day. Various representatives from city agencies were on hand, and officers continued the process of educating and building relationships with the several hundred people in attendance. With the assistance of Officer Toby and Lilia Armenta of Sunshine Division, officers continue to provide food, clothing, and other resources for the family. Officer Shelton took the children clothes and school shopping as sponsored by the Sunshine Division's Izzy's Kids program. All of these individuals' caring actions help support a family during a time of horrific grief. For your compassion and willingness to go above and beyond in our community, you are hereby awarded the Portland Police Commendation Medal. Commendation Medal, Sergeant Jake Jensen. Sergeant Jake Jensen transferred into the Professional Standards Division in May 2014 and assumed the duties of the Employee Information Systems Administrator. During his 23 months in the position, he made a significant impact on the EIS system. Sergeant Jensen was essential in helping to move EIS forward in times of great change, assuring the Bureau continues to achieve significant compliance with the DOJ settlement agreement. As the EIS Administrator, Sergeant Jensen ushered EIS through 2 complete directive revisions, managed and implemented system software changes, provided Bureau-wide training on EIS, all in combination with his day-to-day duties. He was responsible for developing and reporting all the performance measures and auditing needs of EIS to the Bureau, as well as to the DOJ and the community. Sergeant Jensen contacted national experts on employee information systems and organized the Bureau's participation in an EIS process study, as well as an in-house study which will serve as a roadmap for the future. Sergeant Jensen, for your work to continue to develop the employee information system, a critical piece of the Bureau's accountability and performance tracking, you are hereby awarded the Portland Police Commendation Medal. Commendation Medal, Noho Marchese and Sam Sachs. In August 2016, Noho Marchese and Sam Sachs were discussing the murder of 5 Dallas police officers, along with the officer-involved shootings of people of color around the country. They were numbed by all the violence and hate and sad to see the communities being separated into us versus them. The 2 men realized that they both had numerous friends from diverse backgrounds, as well as many friends in law enforcement. They decided to invite all people of color they knew personally, as well as police officers, and asked them to join them for a dinner. The desire was to begin to build trust, relationships, friendships, and ultimately for each group to see the value in each other. The first police and community dinner was born and was called Breaking Bread, Breaking Barriers. The 2 men continued to host monthly dinners and also fundraise, donating the funds to the Blazers Boys and Girls Club and the Portland Police Fallen Officer Memorial. Through these donations, 25 kids from the Boys and Girls Club and 15 police officers were able to attend the Portland Trailblazer game. Noho and Sam set out to bring members of Portland's diverse communities and its police officers to improve community and police relations, to further an authentic community policing culture, and to promote dignity, understanding, and respect in police and community. For all that you have done positively to impact our community, you are hereby awarded the Portland Police Commendation Medal. If you haven't been to one of these dinners, I would highly encourage you to attend. They're once a month, usually on a Monday night. In the summer here, NoHo hosts a nice music and event in the patio at NoHo's on Fremont. So please come attend one of these dinners. Our next award, Commendation Medal, Detective Brian Sitton and Jenny Pullen. During the summer of 2015, Detective Brian Sitton took the initiative to reinstitute the once annual white-collar crimes unit sensitive document shred event that had lost its funding and had not been active for several years. Detective Sitton recognized the vast amount of identity theft and fraud starts with dumpster diving and other activities, which yield sensitive information about people through documents either stolen or casually discarded. He approached Jenny Pullen, a crime prevention coordinator in the Office of Neighborhood Involvement, who acts as the liaison between the city and the Drug Enforcement Agency for prescription drug turn events. The 2 decided to combine the events to draw a larger crowd. Detective Sitton was able to coordinate a partnership between the Police Bureau, the Office of Neighborhood Involvement, and the individual banks to share the cost of the shred trucks, while Jenny worked with the neighborhood response teams to have personnel at the event to collect the drugs and coordinate dates to turn in the drugs to the DEA so they could be destroyed. The end result of this hard work was a well-publicized event held in September 2015. This has now become a biannual event. Thousands of pounds of documents and prescription drugs have been shredded, and and turned in, and community members are extremely grateful for this service. Detective Sitton also combined this effort with an appeal for emergency food and clothing. The events have collected hundreds of pounds of food and clothing for the Portland Police Sunshine Division. Detective Sitton and Jenny Pullen went above and beyond to reinstitute and redevelop a popular event that makes a significant positive impact in our community. You are hereby awarded the Portland Police Bureau's Commendation Medal. Achievement Medal, Officer Tim Haroff and Officer Jakari Jackson. Officer Tim Haroff and Officer Jakari Jackson have often worked as partners on night relief at North Precinct. They have repeatedly distinguished themselves with their tremendous work ethic, proactive policing, and sound decision-making during high-stress incidents. These are just a few examples. In July 2015, Officers Haroff and Jackson were on patrol in the area of Northeast 72nd and Killingsworth when they heard a gunshot from a nearby trailer park. The officers saw a subject running from the area and chased him on foot. He used excellent teamwork to apprehend the suspect and soon learned that he had just killed someone in the trailer park. In December 2015, Officers Haroff and Jackson learned of a gang-related shooting that had just occurred in East Precinct. A suspect vehicle description was broadcast and the officers began searching likely escape routes. They located the suspect vehicle and became involved in a short vehicle pursuit, attempting multiple pit techniques before it crashed. 2 suspects fled from the suspect vehicle and a canine search was conducted without success. However, evidence left behind in the suspect vehicle was processed by the gang enforcement team officers and the Forensics Evidence Division. The following morning, Officers Haroff and Jackson responded to assist with a burglary in progress call. Officers became engaged in a struggle with the suspect where a taser, pepper spray, and a baton were deployed. Those tools were ineffective and the suspect fled onto the shoreline of the Willamette River. Officers Haroff and Jackson were part of a coordinated response, bringing together numerous resources that led to the suspect's capture. In January 2016, Officers Haroff and Jackson performed a traffic stop on a vehicle that had been involved in a shooting in East Precinct. Officer Jackson saw that one of the subjects was clenching a handgun between his legs. The officers gave commands to the subject and safely recovered a loaded 9mm handgun. Officers Haroff and Jackson, you are consistently showing excellent initiative, problem-solving skills, and a professional approach to serving our community. You are hereby awarded the Portland Police Achievement Medal. Achievement Medal, Sergeant Brett Barnum. Sergeant Brett Barnum has been the Traffic Division's Special Events Coordinator since 2010. The position is usually rotated every 2 years due to the tremendous amount of stress involved, but Sergeant Barnum has voluntarily stayed in the position for 6 years. Sergeant Barnum has coordinated more than 100 moving events per year, which includes the Rose Festival, Grand Fall Parade, and Starlight Parade, Portland Marathon, Shamrock Run, Bridge Pedal, dignitary visits, protests, and more. These events require significant planning and extra hours. Sergeant Barnum frequently works events on the weekend and is commonly called to plan and execute events with very little notice. In one recent example, he was notified on his day off that there was a large permitted protest occurring the following day. He put a plan together and coordinated the necessary resources to make the event safe and successful. During these planning stages, Sergeant Barnum has developed long and trusting relationships with event promoters, city workers, and other law enforcement agencies. These relationships allow him to have sometimes difficult conversations about routes, start times, and resources needed. Sergeant Barnum has been instrumental in making athletic events cost neutral, sustainable, and equitable. He began first to push for cost recovery when he took over as Special Events Coordinator. The city was not recovering the full cost for for-profit athletic events. Through his tenacity and ability to bring the right people to the table, he was able to bring the Bureau to a place of full cost recovery and help coordinate decision-making so that the Bureau could manage existing events while dealing with staffing shortages. Sergeant Barnum, for coordinating moving events so that they are successful and well-managed, and for your work to achieve full cost recovery and mitigate staffing resources, you are hereby awarded the Portland Police Achievement Medal. Achievement Medal, Officer Russ Corno. Officer Russ Corno has been a member of the Tactical Operations Division for more than 20 years, gaining valuable knowledge about the history of gangs. His knowledge is not only Portland-based, he has a great understanding of the national impact of gangs and their members. Officer Corno's knowledge, combined with his strong teaching and speaking skills, drew the attention of the Department of Public Safety Standards and Training, where he has taught the basic gang awareness course more than 50 times to approximately 2,000 police officers. This class is something Officer Cornell does above and beyond his assigned work duties, and his passion comes through in the instruction to new police recruits. Officer Cornell developed the course curriculum and teaches students to use the valuable skills and thought processes to problem solve and interact with gang members. Officer Cornell's significant contribution to the development of this program has a profound impact on officers and agencies throughout our state. Officer Cornell is an outstanding role model for other officers within the Tactical Operations Division, where he passes on his knowledge regularly. Officer Cornell, you have taught police officers in your own agency, as well as thousands across our state, to understand gangs and their history. You have helped develop officers' skills and enhance their ability to combat gangs in their own communities. You are hereby awarded the Portland Police Achievement Medal. Achievement Medal, Lieutenant Ryan Lee. Lieutenant Ryan Lee has dedicated his efforts to improving the Bureau's training and response to crowd control events while serving in the Traffic Division as an exemplary leader. He has also chosen to spend his personal time coaching, mentoring, and teaching. In 2010, Lieutenant Lee recognized the need to create and standardize training for mass incident and crowd control events across the state. He reached out to other state agencies and created a multi-jurisdictional committee to create training. Lieutenant Lee spent hundreds of hours of his personal time creating a core curriculum which delved into complex areas such as legal issues, fundamental philosophies of crowd management, tactical formations, and academic research into the tipping points of riotous situations. Today, the curriculum he helped create has been adopted by both Oregon and Washington State's Department of Public Safety Standards, as well as the National Guard's Response Force. As the Operations Sections Chief in the Emergency Operations Center over the last year, Lieutenant Lee has helped manage protests and crowd events. As stressful events rapidly unfold, he remains composed and strategically utilizes resources to direct crowd dynamics and mitigate the volatile crowd emotion. Due to the relationships he previously built with regional agencies and common training created rapid response teams and mobile field forces have worked well together. In 2015, Lieutenant Lee transferred to the Traffic Division and began responding to call-outs to understand the mission of the crash team. Convinced that a good leader must lead by example, he chose to respond to more than 120 crash team call-outs, taking tasks such as providing releases to the media and at times shouldering the difficult duty of providing death notifications to victims' families. He appeared at every crash call-out, working more than 750 hours in addition to what his position required. On a personal level, he continues to give back. As a multi-level black belt in judo, Lieutenant Lee has shared his talents by volunteering his time to teach families weekly at a community center. He has created and taught women's self-defense programs, youth summer programs, and a wrestling program. In addition, during the past 2 years, Lieutenant Lee has come across several youth from broken homes. One of these youth, whose parents were incarcerated, was failing classes and destined to drop out of school. Lieutenant Lee developed a rapport, provided tutoring, and advocated for him. Today, because of Lieutenant Lee's efforts, he is an apprentice electrician. Lieutenant Lee, your actions have brought inspiration and greater credibility to the Bureau. Through your humility and consistent service, you have earned the respect, admiration, and hearts of the men and women in your command. You are hereby awarded the Portland Police Achievement Medal. The Nathan Thomas Award, Sergeant Troy King. Helping to present this award today are Nathan's parents, Martha McMurray and Greg Thomas. Sergeant Troy King has been the Police Bureau's Crisis Negotiation Team Sergeant for almost 6 years. During his tenure, Sergeant King recognized that in most cases, good crisis communication at the onset of a critical incident can make the difference between life and death. Additionally, he understood that the Crisis Negotiation Team possessed skills in crisis communication that were considered elite. However, these skills were not being passed on to first responders to deal with critical incidents on a more consistent basis, and often do not have the time to wait for arriving crisis negotiation team members. Sergeant King made the decision to share the skills and lessons learned by the crisis negotiation team with all first responders. He also recognized the need to share training with 911 dispatchers, who are often the first contact in crisis incidents. Over the past few years, Sergeant King has personally trained and facilitated training in crisis communication to enhance crisis intervention officers, the Bureau's Advanced Academy, in-service, and MOEX in-service training, along with numerous other groups around the country. Sergeant King has raised the bar for the crisis negotiation team with increased training and certifications. His efforts resulted in the team winning first place in 2015 and second place in 2017 at the Texas State University's competition, which tested Portland skills against 30 more teams. Sergeant King is published as the primary author in a crisis negotiation field manual and has also written a scholarly paper published in a National Tactical Officers Association periodical. Sergeant King, you have dedicated yourself to preserving lives and diffusing otherwise deadly incidents through timely and effective communication. You have ensured officers, other city personnel, and law enforcement officers around the country have received elite crisis communications training. You are hereby awarded the Nathan Thomas Distinguished Service Medal. The Mark Zylawy Distinguished Service Award, Officer Brian Dale. Helping to present this award today is Mark Zylawy's family. Officer Brian Dale is assigned to the Gang Enforcement Team in the Tactical Operations Division. He consistently delivers police services in a manner that embody the values of the Portland Police Bureau and those that made Officer Mark Zylawy such a great community policing officer. Officer Dale shows compassion toward others, displays excellence in service, and has a high moral and ethical standard which he operates every day. Officer Dale has built relationships with many of Portland's drug-affected and disenfranchised individuals. These people all know Officer Dale by name and respect him, and he always treats everyone fairly and compassionately. They commonly ask other officers, "Is Dale working?" Or they say, "Let Dale know I said hi," sometimes referring to him as the Truth, their nickname for him. Officer Dale has made a marked impact on the lives of those individuals and also the community as a whole. Officer Dale is tactically sound and consistently shows good judgment. He's respected by his peers and supervisors, and he mentors others by his actions and guidance. Officer Dale, your commitment to service and your ability to act as a role model for other younger officers has positively impacted the lives of countless people and epitomizes the very best values of this organization. You are hereby awarded the Mark Zylawy Distinguished Service Medal. That's a lot of talking up here. Distinguished Service Medal, Sergeant Tim Musgrave. In 2004, Sergeant Musgrave transferred to the Detectives Division to being Sergeant of the Domestic Violence Reduction Unit. He realized there existed little uniformity in how DPRU officers were assigned cases. Sergeant Musgrave was concerned the most egregious cases or recurring abusers could slip through the cracks. At the time, and with the staffing, a limited number of cases were assigned and followed up on. Sergeant Musgrave contacted Dr. Chris Henning at Portland State University to see if there was a way to quantify the cases and make a determination in which cases were selected by the unit by studying the data. Dr. Henning and several graduate students eventually created a screening tool that officers began using. This tool helped narrow down those offenders who were most violent or had multiple cases of abusive behavior. Officers could target and investigate those cases. After using the case screening tool for a year, Sergeant Musgrave wondered if the information could be automated and a report generated. This would free up officers from filling out the screening of the 12,000 cases per year. Dr. Henning researched the idea, and ultimately, with the assistance of Sergeant Greg Stewart, he created another tool for officers. Sergeant Musgrave then went on to make a significant and major contribution while serving as the Elder Crime Response Team Sergeant. Once again, Sergeant Musgrave was facing a huge amount of cases with a relatively small amount of investigators. He looked once again to maximize resources. He came up with the idea to co-locate Adult Protective Service staff members with the Elder Crimes Response Team. This groundbreaking new way of doing things led to Adult Protective Services having a quick and efficient way to bring cases to law enforcement. Meanwhile, Elder Crimes gained the expertise of an Adult Protective Services investigator in their office to assist them with investigations and records checks. Sergeant Musgrave also implemented a program of bringing Elders in Action volunteers to assist with cases in which victims were elderly, but their case was not going to be worked by a detective. The cases involved people over the age of 65 who were the victim of a car fraud or car crash. Elders in Action's volunteers call victims, check in to see how they are doing and see if they need any assistance. Lastly, Sergeant Musgrave has spearheaded an effort to provide for individuals with developmental disabilities and their families during the holidays, coordinating efforts with the Crossroads Church, the Sunshine Division, Toy and Joy, and Goodwill. The event has helped hundreds of individuals experience caring and compassion, while also showing these involved that police officers are people they can trust and go to when a time of crisis or in a time of need. Sergeant Musgrave continued to strive to implement better efficiencies, improve work processes, and help those most vulnerable in our community. You are hereby awarded the Distinguished Medal of Service. The Distinguished Service Medal, Terry Kruger. Lieutenant Terry Kruger was appointed to the Portland Police Bureau on July 14, 1988. He became an excellent street officer and field training officer. He always shared his knowledge to advance the skills of the younger officers who he worked around and the trainings he coached. Terry was selected as a Patrol Tactics Training Officer when the Bureau held its first basic academy. His ability to mentor, train, and inform the newly hired officers was exceptional. Terry was selected for CERT in 1992 and was selected to be a sniper on the team, excelling in every aspect of the job. He also became a mentor, instructor, and coach for new team members. Terry took on added responsibilities, such as becoming a member of the breaching cadre, which required additional training, certifications, and dedication to the mission. In 2008, Officer Kruger was promoted to rank of sergeant. Due to his professionalism, expertise, and dedication to the team's mission, he was also selected to be one of only 2 full-time sergeants. In that role, he further developed the team's capabilities, its preparedness for the most critical of incidents, and its individual members into subject matter experts in all manners of tactical operations. Terry spent 20 years in on-call capacity for CERT, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, missing countless family events as part of the job. On one occasion, CERT was assigned a high-risk search warrant entry on a house occupied by gang members who had been selling illegal firearms and narcotics. During the execution of the search warrant, it was discovered that the mother of one of the gang members was inside the home and was visibly upset and frightened. Terry sat next to her, showing compassion and empathy, trying to calm her down and help her understand why the event occurred the way it had. Terry's form of policing was patient, kind, and helpful, and he treated everyone with respect. When Terry was promoted to lieutenant, many members got to benefit from his skill as a manager and a leader. As a probationary lieutenant, he was assigned the acting captain position for Central Precinct for 6 months. It's extremely uncommon for a probationary lieutenant to spend half of his probation as the acting captain. After completing his probation, Terry was transferred to detectives, where he supervised the homicide, cold case, assault, and missing persons units. He was then moved to the chief's office to be the chief's adjutant for former police chiefs Mike Reese and Larry O'Day. During his career, Terry received 30 letters of commendation, along with a total of 4 unit commendation medals, 2 with valor. Terry selflessly retired in 2016 to care for his parents. Throughout his career, he exemplified what professional police officers should all strive for: a peacemaker, compassionate responder, helpful to the needy, a leader, a mentor, and a hero. Retired Lieutenant Terry Kruger, you are hereby awarded the Portland Police Distinguished Service Medal. Life-saving medal. Officers Josh Pacino, William Dunbar, and Lamont Johnson. On April 16, 2016, Officers Lamont Johnson, Josh Pacino, and William Dunbar responded to a welfare check at a Northeast Portland apartment. A man had sent suicidal text to his brother, and the brother had asked police to check on him. Unable to see inside the front door, Officer Johnson pulled his police vehicle under a bedroom window about 12 feet from the ground and climbed up on top of his car to see in. From this view, he could see a leg and a foot lying in an odd angle on the floor. Fearing the man had already taken his life, officers called for medical personnel, and Officer Johnson kicked in the front door. Once inside, the officers found the man in the hallway, slumped in a chair. The man was trying to hang himself. The man was not breathing, and the officers worked quickly to cut him free from the belt he had tied around his neck. The man became conscious and aggressively struggled with the officers, who held on to him until medical personnel arrived and took the man to a local hospital. This man was intent on taking his own life, and without the intervention of Officers Pacino, Dunbar, and Johnson, would have succeeded. You are hereby awarded the Portland Police Life-Saving Medal. Life-Saving Medal, Officer Mike Close. On On March 8, 2016, Officer Michael Close was standing outside the Traffic Division office in St. John's at the very east end of the St. John's Bridge. Officer Close was flagged down by a passing motorist who advised him there was a young woman who was standing on the outside portion of a pedestrian railing mid-span on the bridge. Officer Close quickly ran and grabbed an unmarked patrol vehicle so he would be able to drive up closer to the distressed woman without being noticed as a police officer. Officer Close parked the vehicle and approached the distressed woman, who was positioned outside of the handrail in the unprotected area, with an underhand grip and her toes on the very edge of the bridge. She was also in a crouched position and appeared to be struggling to keep her grip on the railing. Officer Close was able to get within a few feet of the woman before she noticed him, and he began talking to her, confirming quickly she wanted to end her life. He radioed for assistance while continuing to talk with her. Officer Close noticed the woman was intently looking at the water below more often, and seemed to be disengaging from their conversation. Officer Close noticed a barge and a tugboat below their position. As the woman looked away a few times, Officer Close took advantage of this distraction and moved closer to her. He feared that if she chose to jump when the tugboat was passing below, there could certainly be additional fatalities involving boat crew members. Officer Close felt the woman's demeanor and speech were becoming increasingly dismal, so he seized an opportunity to reach out and grab her hand and wrist. Portland Fire and Rescue arrived and placed a rope around the suicidal woman to secure her in place. Officer Close and fire personnel brought the woman safely back to the sidewalk, and she was taken to a local hospital for a mental health evaluation. Officer Close, you undoubtedly saved this woman's life, but perhaps more lives, with those individuals who were in the passing tugboat. You are hereby awarded the Portland Police Life-Saving Medal. Life-Saving Medal, Officer Robert C. Brown and Officer John Edwards. On October 12, 2016, Officers Robert Brown and John Edwards were working a partner car in East Precinct as part of the neighborhood response team detail. Officers Brown and Edwards went to check on a known vacant house that had frequent transient drug issues. As the officers arrived, they observed a man sitting in the driver's seat of a vehicle that was parked next to the vacant house. The man was reaching around throughout the front and back seats of the car and apparently did not see the officers approaching. Officer Brown initiated contact and saw the man had an open container of beer and was sitting with the door and window closed. Officer Brown spoke with him and found that he was initially slow, lethargic, and unresponsive. Officer Brown told the man to exit the car, but he ignored the directions. When ordered again, the man refused. Officer Brown found the car door unlocked, so he opened the door to grab the man's arm to escort him from the vehicle. When Officer Brown did this, the man began to pull away, reaching around the console area with his right hand. Both officers told him to stop and were concerned by the subject's actions, not knowing what he was grabbing. Officer Brown saw the subject grab a handful of pills with his right hand and throw them in his mouth, and then shut the beer. Officer Brown yelled for the man to stop and began to struggle with him further. Officer Edwards thought the man might have pulled a weapon, so he withdrew his firearm and tried to position himself accordingly. The man suddenly reached down again to the right and pulled out a large hunting knife and began to repeatedly slash his own arms, making several large gouges that started to bleed profusely. Recognizing the severe and immediate danger to self-injury for the man, as well as the officers, Officer Brown released his grip and deployed his taser while Officer Edwards provided cover. This taser deployment caused the man to drop the knife and allowed officers to pull him from the vehicle and secure him into custody. Officers called for medical personnel and applied a tourniquet to the man's arm as it was bleeding severely, causing him to faint. Medical personnel transported the man to a local hospital. Officers Brown and Edwards, who intervened in a dangerous situation involving a man in crisis using a large knife to hurt himself, you undoubtedly saved the man's life as well as others, and if he would have driven off in the drug and drunken state that he was in. You are hereby awarded the Portland Police Life-Saving Medal. That's Officer Brown. I don't see who gets up here, so in case you're wondering. Life-Saving Medal, Officer Tony Eugenio. In the early afternoon of November 9, 2016, Officers Tony Eugenio and Colby Cantor were working a partner car. They are assigned to the Tactical Operations Division, but were working patrol and rotational support. While parked in front of NoHo's Hawaiian restaurant, they were flagged down by a patron at the location and told the customer inside was choking. They immediately went into the restaurant and saw a woman visibly struggling, very pale. Officer Eugenio obtained consent to help her and then immediately began administering several abdominal thrusts as trained in his first aid class. He was able to dislodge the food and she began to breathe again. The officer stayed with the man until medical personnel arrived. Officer Eugenio, for your work in saving a choking woman who was clearly very distressed, you are hereby awarded the Portland Police Life-Saving Medal. Life-Saving Medal. Officer Chris Pope and Officer Larry McNabb. It's like Officer McNabb's unable to make it today. On the morning of October 19, 2016, Officers Chris Pope, Larry McNabb responded to a gas leak at Northwest 23rd and Northwest Gleason. A construction backhoe struck a gas line, causing gas to quietly leak under a bagel store and residence for approximately 45 minutes. This created a pocket of compressed gas to accumulate into the building, which was still occupied. At approximately 9:40, while fire personnel and police were actively evacuating the area, the building suddenly erupted in a massive explosion, ripping it apart and throwing debris into the streets. The blast wave was felt so far away that it broke windows on West Burnside Street, approximately 5 blocks away. At the epicenter of the blast, almost every window, including the plate glass windows of a nearby bank, all exploded from the blast wave. The explosion launched a firefighter from the building, throwing him approximately 20 feet into a fence, breaking his leg and causing numerous injuries. After the explosion, an enormous flame continued to erupt in the building, shooting flames out into the street. Another firefighter at the scene suffered more serious injuries from the pressure of the explosion, causing him total disorientation and bleeding from his ears. At the time of the blast, the officers were separated, but each was less than 1 block away and were impacted by the blast wave. Officers Culp and McNabb remained calm and began making radio transmissions to describe what just happened. They also remained focused on scene and directed people away from the massive fire that was now erupting from ground zero. Numerous fire personnel and police began to arrive from all over the city. Officers Culp and McNabb were now separated by the fire, working independently to get all the community members out of the danger area. This area was designated the casualty collection point for the responding ambulances, while curious community members began pouring into the streets to get a closer look at the explosion and take pictures. The area became crowded with people while secondary explosions were still occurring. Officers Culp and McNabb were still actively trying to keep people away from the danger and clearing streets for first responder vehicles, yelling for crowds of onlookers, including media members, to get back. It was later determined that toxic fumes contained burning asbestos and other hazardous burning materials. A roll call was conducted to determine whether every officer was accounted for and whether they needed help for evacuation. Officers McNabb and Culp responded, indicating that they were not injured. However, Sergeant Crooker found Officer McNabb as clearly dazed. Officer McNabb, however, continued working on evacuating people from the area in a cloud of smoke. Officer McNabb couldn't hear clearly or respond clearly when asked questions. However, he knew all the people around him were still in danger. He explained which buildings had not yet been evacuated to Sergeant Crooker. He refused to leave the scene while people were still in the danger area, including elderly patients in a medical clinic. When additional officers arrived and began establishing a more structured large containment area, Sergeant Crooker transitioned this evacuation duty to other officers and ordered Officer McNabb to get medical treatment in a nearby hospital. Meanwhile, Officer Culp remained at the scene for more than an hour, evacuating people with a partner officer. As things began to calm down, Officer Culp realized the magnitude of the events. He also reported to Sergeant Crooker that he was dizzy and impacted by the blast. He was also directed to go to a hospital for treatment. Officers Culp and McNabb are commended for their professionalism in the face of obvious danger. Their first concern is the evacuation of people in a very dangerous situation. They are hereby awarded the Portland Police Life-Saving Medal. Life-Saving Medal. Tom Harper, Becky Irving, and Ava. Shortly after 6 a.m. on February 18, 2017, officers were dispatched to a call regarding a missing 2-year-old boy in Northeast Portland. The family had no idea where he would have gone, and officers requested canine resources. Police learned from witnesses and video surveillance that the boy may have been outside since 1 a.m. It was 40 degrees and raining off and on all night. The little boy was last seen wearing a diaper and a long-sleeve t-shirt. A team of volunteers with Mountain Wave Search and Rescue responded to the scene. Becky Irving, Tom Harper, and Becky's canine partner Ava were deployed shortly after 10 a.m. They started checking all the apartment complex window ledges, laundry facilities, and garbage and recycling dumpsters in the area. They saw a small gravel road that became a dead end with a dense patch of blackberries. Ava quickly jumped up on the blackberries, and Becky saw the body of a boy lying face down. He was shivering, and Becky could tell he was breathing. Maggie then called for Tom, who assessed the boy, while she went to direct police into the scene. The boy was then pulled out of the blackberry bushes by police at 11:40 a.m. He becomes so entangled in the blackberry bushes that he would have never been able to get out on his own without assistance. Medical personnel arrived and discovered the boy's body temperature was 90 degrees. He was transported to the local children's hospital. Tom Harper, Becky Irving, and Ava, who volunteered your service in a critical situation. Without your intervention, officers may not have found this little boy in a reasonable amount of time to save his life. You are hereby awarded the Portland Police Life-Saving Medal. Gabe wants to stay up here and hang out. Life-Saving Medal. Sergeant Darren Rozier, Officers Aaron Holweege, Matthew Nielsen, Mary Toops, and the Citizen Medal for Heroism, Patrick Blanchard, Craig Dooley, and Shannon Dooley. On April 27, 2016, just after 6 in the morning, several 911 callers reported that there was a man on the Division Street overpass at the Max Light Rail line who was on the outside of the railing in an apparent attempt to commit suicide. Prior to police arriving, several people who were driving by stopped when they saw a woman struggling to hold on to the man. Mr. Blanchard and Mr. and Mrs. Dooley grabbed onto the despondent man's legs and feet. Mr. Blanchard brought a tie-down strap and attempted to wrap it around one of the man's legs. Mr. Dooley used his pants belt to do the same. Officers Matt Nilsson and Mary Toops arrived and saw that the man was hanging upside down completely off the overpass with his feet at street level and below the railing. The man was directly over the Powell Boulevard exit ramp and was busy with cars and trucks traveling at freeway speeds. The officers got down on the sidewalk and crawled under the railing. Officer Toops was able to grab a hold of the man's fingertips, and Officer Nilsson was able to reach down and grab a hold of the man's waistband. Officer Aaron Holweege arrived a few minutes later and grabbed a hold of one of the man's pants legs. Sergeant Rozier was the next to arrive, and he took Officer Holweege's hobble and attempted to reinforce the strap around the man's foot because it was only wrapped around his toes and was in danger of slipping off. Despite all the attempts to rescue the man, he continued to struggle against their help. He tried to push away from the rescuers and even tried to undo his pants so he could slide out and fall. The officers and community members tried to talk him back over the rail and assured him that they would get the help. He would get the help that he needed if he would allow them to help him back over the edge safely. After several minutes of struggling, the man's demeanor changed. He relaxed and raised his hand to Officer Nilsson, who took hold of it. The man raised his other hand up and Sergeant Rozier was able to grasp it. Working together, the community members and officers were able to pull the man back to street level and under the railing to safety. The man was placed in a waiting ambulance and taken to a local hospital for treatment. Sergeant Rozier, Officers Nilsson, Toops, and Holweege, you are hereby commended for your immediate actions to assist the community members in their efforts to prevent the man from falling to his death. You are hereby awarded the Portland Police Life-Saving Medal. Mr. Blanchard and Mr. and Mrs. Dooley, your quick and decisive actions to render aid to this despondent and suicidal young man are to be commended. Were it not for their efforts, it is certain that he would have suffered serious injury or death. You are hereby awarded the Portland Police Bureau's Citizen Medal of Heroism. Have one last round of applause for all of our workers.